Hello and welcome to the first edition of the Aliyah Goes Insane podcast. Well, it's actually the C Squared podcast, but Aliyah is going to be doing an episode or two every few weeks or once a week. We haven't quite decided yet because Aliyah is going to be like talking about different things. She's going to be interviewing different people probably. Most of the time will be with me. Maybe she'll do a solo. We'll kind of figure it out as we're going along. But for now, Aliyah is going insane solo with Curtis, and she's going to interview me as her very first guest. So over to you.
Yes. Hey.
Hello.
Awesome. So I like to start things off with a pretty serious question. This might be difficult to answer, but try to be honest.
Okay.
What is your favorite candy?
Well, I'm on a diet right now, so I'm not eating any candy.
Before your diet, what was your favorite candy?
My is generally chocolate bars. Specifically, it's a toss-up between Snickers and Kit Kat.
Okay, good choices, good choices. I agree with those.
Cool.
All right. Hard-hitting question number one, done. I appreciate that.
Cool.
So I guess we're going to talk a little about PR since that's your specialty.
Sure.
A lot of musicians have the perspective, DIY or die, do everything they can themselves. They don't want to spend money on anything. But in your opinion, what are say the three most important things that bands should spend money on? I know what one of them is.
Are we talking including PR or are we not talking including PR?
Let's say not including PR because obviously PR is one of them.
Okay. So I'm going to talk from a marketing perspective, PR's perspective, obviously not, I don't know anything about gear or anything like that or the technical aspects of what you should spend money on. But number one, definitely the PR aspect. But in addition to that, because you said we weren't including the PR there, I would also look at potentially, depending on who the band is, getting ads, number one. But it depends, because not every band should get ads. It kind of depends on what they have to promote, their size, that type of thing, if that makes sense. So that would be one thing if it's required for them. Next thing would be investing in some sort of MailChimp or something like that, so that way they can send emails to people. And then the third thing other than that, that's a tough question. Now I'm blanking on the third one. What would be the third one? Probably I would look at something that would actually improve their ability to like some sort of a program like where they can learn how to communicate to people effectively, because a lot of bands can't communicate very well in interviews or anything like that. So they could find something where they could learn how to communicate a little bit better. I think that would be an investment. I don't know what that thing would be, but
I remember when you guys were interviewing the necrosexual, he mentioned taking an improv class.
That is true. An improv class.
Maybe something like that.
You got a better memory than I do on these types of things, but yes, that would be a good thing too.
Sometimes things just, if I tried to recall something specific, for the life of me, I cannot, but sometimes things just pop up in my memory. So, now, okay, so you have taken several new people under your wing to teach them PR lately.
Yep.
And I was wondering if you could share what you think the first thing that somebody who is looking to start learning PR should learn, like the first aspect they should learn.
Well, there's something that they have to have before that, which is the ability to actually take direction and actually learn. So I would say that would be the number one thing. And I know that's not really something you can really learn, but all of the people that work with us currently are able to do that. I don't know if you know this, but I've tried in the past probably about a dozen times to take people and teach them how to do this. And I've tried 2016 to 2017 rather, to like 2020. And each time the person failed and they would bail after like a month. The reason why is because most people don't realize how much work you got to put in to learn how to do PR, and they think it's something that's super easy and that you don't have to work very hard and that you can just basically make money from doing it. So but everybody currently working with us so far has stuck it out for how long we've been doing this, since April, May, yeah, about 4 or 5 months. And every single person so far has been relatively new, but they've all stuck it out. And because they're like, I mean, you messaged me at 11 o'clock at night about different things. Corey's working at that time. Gaia is, Holly is. So it's just a matter of like the willingness to do, I think, is the first thing you have to learn.
Yeah, I think that is something that you can learn. I mean, yes, some people have it naturally,
Yep.
but it is a lesson that we learn through life. Sometimes it's a hard lesson to learn, but
100.
But sometimes you have to learn it by falling on your ass a couple times.
Well, it's not just, but also, I mean, like, if you really want to be like, do something like this, you kind of gotta, like, most people don't really, they say they want to do it, but then they don't really have the desire to do it. Because like with me, I don't know if you've ever heard, I think I talked about this on a podcast, maybe not. You would know because you've listened to them. Back when I first started, I mean, like, I was doing basically 24/7. We had 2 little kids, like small babies and stuff like that. And I was basically working 24/7. I was doing a job, an outside job. Plus I was doing PR. I was doing it till about 3 o'clock in the morning, getting up again at 7 o'clock, the whole 9 yards. And I did that for a year before I basically made, I think, even like $100.
You know, it's interesting because you've told your story a few times about how you kind of just fell into this profession.
Yeah.
But clearly you had a passion for it.
Yeah, I did it. I kind of like, more like, what's the right word for it? It wasn't something I was looking to do initially.
Mm-hmm.
I had tried to get into, and I actually gave you the wrong year. It was 2012, not 2014. But basically, I had started off as a writer, and I had started off doing writing for different publications and stuff. That was what I'd always wanted to do since I was little, was to write. So, but then I started the writing, and then I realized I didn't like doing it. So then I did kind of fall into it as a result, because I realized I wasn't, I mean, I'm not bad as a writer, but that's not my thing really. So I was just like, then I fell into doing the PR, like doing that. So it wasn't something I intended to do at first.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So when did you know that this was what you wanted to do full time for the rest of your life, basically?
Probably around 2013. Well, what happened is what year was it? I think it was 2013, 2014 actually was the last time I had a job. I had just lost a job I was doing. I didn't get fired or anything like that, but it was, what's the right word for it? It was seasonal work, basically. So I was in between jobs, and I figured I might as well just go for it. And so I just made the effort. So for like the next 6-7 months, that was 2014, I think, when I actually made the attempt to go full time. And it was like, I think we had some income coming in from something. I don't remember. I think it was like, I don't know if it was unemployment or what it was, but it was something, like a little bit of amount of money. So I was able to do it. And everybody thought I was nuts. Wife thought I was nuts. Everybody thought I was nuts for doing it. And finally took off, and I started making enough, I think it was like minimum wage level around end of 2014 or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so you've decided to stick with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I hear a lot about the things that annoy you about musicians and their personalities. And I didn't have this question written down, but I'm just curious, why do you still work? Like, do you enjoy any aspects of working with musicians? I mean, something you must enjoy, but what do you think is your favorite aspect of working with musicians on a day-to-day basis?
Well, it depends. Like, I mean, I do complain a lot, but at the same time, you also know that there are a lot of people that I do like at the same time.
I know. Yes, I know.
Most of the pretty much every client we've had for the last, well, however long we've been in existence, 4 or 5 months or whatever it is, officially 3, I think. Everybody that we've worked with so far have been fine. I haven't had an issue with anybody. Most of the people, like, I mean, sometimes people do dumb things, but on the whole, all of the clients we've had at C Squared have been really, really good. I can't think of a dud client that we've had to date. The only times I've ever had a bad experience with a musician, and I'm loud about it when I do, is when they kind of like go in with wrong expectations or thinking I'm going to be able to wave a magic wand and do something that I can't. Other than that, course you get aggravated with people sometimes. People make mistakes, but other than that, I mean, most of the people we have a pretty good system for qualifying people. Like, we don't qualify for necessarily the ability to pay. It's more like for their ability to for us to get along with them and to know that they're not going to be a hassle, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah. So what is your favorite thing about working with musicians?
It depends, because I mean, they're just people too, right? So it depends. Like, I mean, they got to have a good personality. I got to get along with them. There isn't anything specific, I would say, other than the fact of the personality bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really answering your question, but I'm kind of answering your question.
No, yeah, because I feel like for myself, I notice that the friends I tend to make are also musicians,
Mm-hmm.
and I can only get so deep in a friendship with somebody that doesn't understand that side of my personality fully. So I guess I feel because of that, there must be some commonalities between musicians. And I was just wondering if any of those stood out to you as a particularly positive thing.
Well, I will phrase it that way. I will give you the most positive thing that I see is just the fact that most of the time the musician doesn't, they have a different idea about things. I think the same thing happens with writers, and it happens with people that do other type of arts. They have their own, they're able to envision things that don't exist, and they're able to see beyond what's actually there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they have an ability to kind of usually think outside the box on things. And sometimes that's a bad thing, because they sometimes think things that I don't necessarily agree with
Sure.
of what they want. But as a general rule, I think it's really good because they have a creative mind. And that's kind of the thing that kind of sticks out to me.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, we've answered the first thing a publicist should learn about. What is like the most critical thing for them to do correctly, to learn to do correctly later on, like midway through their process of learning PR?
Well, okay. So keep in mind, I have no degree in PR. Just keep that in mind right now.
Yeah, but you have a life degree.
I'm just qualifying what I'm about to say, because somebody might listen to this who's been doing this for a lot longer with a degree that might totally disagree with me. But I think the main thing that you have to learn in order to do PR is that you have to learn how to do sales and just how to talk to people.
Okay.
The main thing, like, if you can talk to someone, because to me, in a nutshell, I mean, PR is a little bit more than this, but in a nutshell, PR is basically getting your band or your idea sold to someone else, who will then write about it, talk about it, feature that person, give you a medium to communicate more with. And I think if you're shy and you can't talk to people, it's not going to work. So the first thing you got to do is you got to get over that. Second thing, rather, is to get over that shyness.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of why a lot of musicians aren't really cut out to do their own PR, because a lot of musicians are shy when it comes to one-on-one interactions.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, well, it's different when you're on stage. You kind of take on a different energy and it becomes something else. But yeah, so that's maybe one reason why musicians should look into getting professional PR, if it doesn't agree with their personality.
I agree.
What are some other reasons you think that musicians should look into getting professional PR instead of trying to do it themselves?
Because most
Other
of them,
than the email list.
well, the main thing is, again, it comes back to the communication factor. Most don't know how to promote themselves properly, and they don't know how to sell. So most
Right.
bands, as you know, will drop a YouTube link to someone without saying anything about who they are, what they want, or anything like that. They'll DM it to you. You have no idea what they want. Or they'll drop a SoundCloud link or a Bandcamp link, or they'll also say something stupid like, "Hails War Brother, can you please listen to my demo?" Or that. So again, it all comes back, and I know we keep repeating myself here, but it comes back to being able to, like, actually get yourself in front of someone and say, "Hey, listen to it," without being annoying.
Right. And why I think it's obvious to everyone who works here at C Squared and probably most of our listenership. But just to clarify, what are some of the reasons why people don't just get discovered anymore?
Again,
in your opinion?
Okay, well, the main reason, there's a glut of bands, too many people out there saying, "Look at my shit," and there isn't enough people that, like, repeatedly contact people that kind of stay out there, that kind of are known about, that will listen to the band. So that's why you got the PR, because the PR is always there and they're always repeatedly in front of people, and then they start clicking on the emails, they notice, answer them, and that type of thing. Joe Blow random band, like let's say your band before you were in PR, we'll just say, I'm going to use it as an example, and you're probably going to hate me for doing this, but if you, nobody knew who you were trying to contact a publication, they may not answer your email. But me, on the other hand, they would probably be more likely to open the email from, because they see my emails all the time when I communicate.
Right. Well, I'm already experiencing some of that as I'm just getting started in PR.
Exactly.
Because they don't know my name yet, but they're going to soon.
But here's the thing you got going in your favor. I want to just point out to you, you got the company name behind you, which granted is somewhat new, but you can also name drop me whenever you want, and most people do know who I am and who've been writing for a little bit.
As long as they read that first sentence of the email, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. But just so you know, I'm also, like, to a degree, I've also been going through a little bit of the same thing the last couple of months, because the company name changed.
Right.
I stupidly didn't send out a press release myself until a month later, when I realized that the name had changed. I stupidly didn't do that.
Oh, man.
Realized, because my open rates had dropped, and I said, what the fuck is going on? And then it clicked in my head. I went, okay, me and Corey have been talking about C Squared for the last 3 months, but I didn't officially change the name until June. And then I changed over everything, didn't send out my own press release, stupidly. And I had it opened because people didn't realize that's what I even had a couple journalists even respond back to me and saying, who's this person I'm talking to? And I'm like, hello, my name's Curtis Dewar. You've talked to me 100 times before. It's like, oops. So yeah, so I had the same experience. I didn't even think about it because I just automatically assumed people would realize with the name change, but they didn't at first.
Right.
Yeah.
So right.
Feel
you. Well, it's just a little bit of a process, but I think it's going pretty quickly. So that's good.
It is, yeah.
So yeah, next I had written down the bedroom studios, and there's more and more great musicians and horrible musicians. So that's part of that surplus of talent and surplus of noise, rather.
Yeah.
As well.
Yep. Let's go into that for if we may.
Yeah, of course. Sure.
There is you are right about that, because anybody and their dog can record something nowadays, and then they want to use PR for it. And there are some people that will basically promote anything that's out there. So you got your people, you got your against PRs, you got your metal coffee PRs. I'm going to name drop them. I don't fucking care. People like that who will just take money for $50 or whatever, and they'll do a blast to a list. You have that as well. So that's a very good point. So you have to kind of in order to cut through the noise of that, you have to find someone who's a bit more reputable than those people who have a little bit of a quality system in there. So if you want to get your name out there and you only have $50 and you go and buy a PR campaign from Against PR or something like that, it's not going to go very well necessarily, because of the fact that these guys will just blast out literal crap for people. So you have to kind of choose who you want to go with, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing to keep in mind is C Squared, we don't just do PR blast. We write your bio, we write the emails that are compelling. It's not just the reputation that we have, but it's the other services and the more complete package that we offer.
100%. And anybody who's reputable will do something like that. But a lot of these places will just take your MP3s, whatever crap you wrote, and just send it out there, even untagged files and the whole 9 yards.
Right. Actually, this transitions perfectly into my next question is, what do you hate most about bad PRs?
What do I hate the most? I mean, basically, the thing is, most of them aren't. I don't think most of them are trying to scam people, because for $50, you're not really doing a scam. You know what I mean? So I think it's more just the fact that they think it's not really taking advantage of a band, because again, it's so cheap, and it does get the name out there. So that's kind of a good thing if you have no money. But the thing I don't like is that it spams journalists unnecessarily and it clogs up the inboxes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the thing that I hate the most, because I mean, it's like you can't really fault a band for not having much money and only wanting to spend like a little bit of cash.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't really understand why you would just do that, because it doesn't make any sense to me why the PR would do that. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I feel like if you're just going to spend $50, it might be better spent somewhere else, and you
That's
do your own emails, because if it's a personal email from you and you've done your research, like we talk about on the podcast, you find the right blogs that are fit for your genre, you find a journalist that likes your genre, you
Yep.
reach out to them, and you're going to do a better job than these other PRs are going to. And I don't know if maybe do you feel like they maybe misinform people about what PR really is?
There is a bit, yeah, there's a bit of that. Like there's one person whose name I'm not going to name. What they do is that they claim that they have an email list of, I think it's 14,000 names or something like that. It's like massive, like 14,000 names too. And they say they repeatedly do blasts once, I don't know, remember if it's a week or day for a certain period of time. But a lot of the names that they have on there, like for example, at one point they put my email on it. They put Corey's email on it multiple times. We're PRs. I wouldn't be surprised if your name has gotten on it. I know Gaia's name's gotten on it. Holly had gotten on it at one point. So he's sending it to industry people on top of the journalists, and he's just spamming the crap out of people. So it's kind of like a inflated number that he's got.
Yeah.
If he even has 14, I don't think he has 14. I don't think there's any way he has 14,000, because if he had 14,000, his MailChimp, his mail thing would be like through the roof. So
True.
there's no way. And he charges, I think it's like $80 or something like that for it. What was the original question? I think I kind of got off on a tangent here.
Oh, well, we were talking about the worst things that bad PRs do. And I had mentioned that maybe they misinform people about what PR really is.
So yeah, so when you if you kind of advertise that is your PR, just blast, that would be the misinforming thing that I don't like right there, because that's not true.
Yeah.
That being said, you should like a high volume of email is required though at the same attention, because it kind of goes two ways, because you don't want to spam the shit out of people, but at the same time, I have seen it where a campaign, I've done the emails out, like the Holics or whatever, the MailChimp, for example, 5 times before a journalist will even see it.
Right.
Today is a good example. We had a person at a site reached out to me in response to a press release for Lutharo, which went out last week. They had said, when are you sending the MP3s out? Because we really want to listen to it. The MP3s were originally sent in May, and they've been sent to non-openers again 4 times since then. And this person has not seen the email.
Right.
Right. And I know they're on the list. They would have received it, but they did not email, and they're actually requesting it from me.
Right. Right. Which is the other thing that, it's just so hard to do as a band on your own when you have everything else that you're trying to do creatively, and trying to balance your creativity with the planning aspect is kind of really draining for some musicians.
Yep.
Well, a lot of musicians. I don't think I'm lucky that I'm not the songwriter for our band, because if I was, I would not be able to do this. But because I'm not, I'm able to focus on learning this.
Songwriter, thank you. Tell them we say thank you.
I will tell.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like that balance between like artistic integrity and marketing, and one of the good ways to do that balance or manage that balance is to actually outsource the marketing aspect by paying for PR and paying for other things that are useful for the marketing, which we do a lot of marketing stuff.
Yeah, you guys do it mainly on your own though, but that's because you know what you're doing.
Right. Well,
Well, you do. I mean, you were smart enough to hook up with me. Now you're going to get free PR on your next album. You're going to, you know what I mean? And then plus
Yeah,
you also know your way around social media a fair amount. You know how to network. So,
kind of. Yeah,
I mean, you guys haven't released an album since what, 2011, and you got the name out there now.
that's correct. Yes.
So sorry to put you on the spot, but I mean, like, you're doing a pretty damn good job, I'd say.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing what I can. I think I'm a little hyperactive because I can't do anything in the songwriting aspect of things.
Yeah.
There's only so much I can do. So I'm like, I got to do something. And so,
Yeah, you're doing fine. By the time Shield of Wings finally hits, whenever that is going to be, you have already got your name out there, and also the fact that you're doing PR now and your name is going to be a little bit more recognized. I know you're not the front person or anything like that. It's going to help by a factor of 100, I think.
well, that's good to know.
That's my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe you're not. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be
We
good.
will see. But I think that the music will also speak for itself.
I agree.
But I'm biased.
Well, that's true. But still.
Speaking of playing instruments, I know you've never been in a band. Have you ever tried to learn to play anything? Any instruments?
I had to learn recorder briefly when I was in grade 2, and I've forgotten it.
Okay.
I've forgotten how to play it.
And that was the only time you learned an instrument?
That was the only time, and I do not remember a single thing about it.
Did you ever want to learn to play anything? Was like, what instrument do you most closely identify with?
I had zero inclination to. Absolutely none. Zero yet. That's what I'm doing for my job.
Gotcha. Okay.
This thing I know.
It is kind of unusual, but it's not there's nothing wrong with it.
No, not at all.
I think it's very common that metal fans are also musicians because they just want to become part of it, something that they love so much. Mm-hmm. But you've become part of something as well. You're doing the PR for it. So
somehow, like, I fell into it, like I said.
Right.
I'm gonna keep saying it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep pushing that button on you, Aliyah.
I didn't hear what you said.
I said I'm pushing that button on you, Aliyah. The button that the button, that when I say that I fell into it, I'm going to keep saying that.
Oh, yeah. Right. Well, that's fine. You got lucky, I guess. You found something that you love to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're being successful at it. When did you first hear about Grant Cardone and start listening to him?
Oh, that was 2007.
Okay.
8, I think, was when I first heard of him. Someone actually gave me a book of his, believe it or not. I think it was 2008 or something like that. I think it was someone that actually knew him, if I'm not mistaken. Did they give me the book or did they sell me the book? I can't remember. It was either given or sold a copy of Sell or Be Sold.
So you actually learned about that stuff before you were a PR?
I did, but it wasn't Sell or Be Sold. It was If You're Not First, You're Last. That was the book.
Oh, like in Talladega Nights.
I don't know. Maybe. What's the reference? I don't know that movie. What is it? You got to tell me.
You haven't seen it? Oh, you should watch it, and then you'll understand. It's a race car movie.
I knew that part.
That's something that they say repeatedly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the guy that's winning all the races. If you're not first, you're last.
I didn't say. But that's the name of the book. Is If You're Not First, You're Last. Yeah.
It's a comedy. So.
I first heard of him through that, and then I read a couple of his books after that. That's an interesting question. You asked me that. It was so random, Aliyah.
It was random. I didn't plan that one. But I know that you recommend his books a lot, and you recommended his email list, which I already unsubscribed from because I got too many emails, and it was annoying. But just don't send. I wouldn't recommend bands send out that many emails. But
you know what?
I unsubscribed.
You know what we should do? He doesn't work for Grant Cardone anymore. We should have you do an interview with me and Robert Sislo, and we can talk about the amount of emails, because he used to be in charge, I think, of doing that when he was worked for him. So we could maybe we could remind me after this call, and I'll message him and see if when we can get him on for another podcast.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. I really enjoyed listening to his podcast and his interviews. Sounds
we
like
can,
has a lot of good knowledge.
he has lots of knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I just came up because I know you like to recommend that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering when that started. So that's interesting. It started before
Yeah.
you even started with PR.
Yeah, I mean, I've read a lot of books on sales. I did some sales training and stuff like that years ago.
Right, right.
So, but prior to doing this, I didn't. I mean, I did do some sales, but I also worked in a lot of kitchens and stuff like that. So that which has nothing to do with PR or anything like that. But I kind of went between retail, kitchens, and yeah, that type of stuff. And I did another sales job as well. So I read a lot of books on sales because of the fact that retail has a lot to do with sales,
Yes.
obviously. So
Yes. I mean, when I worked retail, it was never like a direct, like, I never got like a commission or anything like that. So it
but you,
wasn't,
you still needed to sell the stuff, and you had to like do customer relations and all the rest of it. It's the same thing even with working in a kitchen, because you got so many people there and there's so many high emotions. Like, as far as I'm concerned, if you can work in a restaurant, you can deal with pretty much anybody. It's nuts. Like the high
yeah.
emotions there are just insane. Like I usually worked in the kitchen part of it, and it was just crazy. And you had to deal with screaming waitresses, you had to deal with screaming cooks, you had the whole 9 yards.
Streaming customers.
And well, I didn't have to deal with the customers because I was cooking, but I had to deal with the waitresses screaming because of something like that. And you got all types of people. You got druggies there, you got fucking potheads, you got the whole 9 yards, alcoholics, you got normal people, you got everything. It's probably why I'm used to dealing with that here.
You do seem like so easygoing and you can deal with all kinds of personalities.
Well, yeah, you get used to it eventually when you're working in that type of environment. I think that's kind of why I was able to pivot into doing this, because you got someone like, if you get an angry client screaming at you because they're mad about an article or something like that, it's pretty easy to deal with after having years dealt with that in the restaurant industry. And
Yeah. So I used to work at a cafe in
mm,
Los Angeles at a high-end bakery.
mm,
And I was never in the kitchens. I was a cashier. I was in the front.
that'd
But
be
I remember at lunch hour, it was crazy and very, very stressful.
yep,
And it was a high-end bakery. We did wedding cakes, birthday cakes, custom cakes. And
yep,
I remember hearing, I wasn't the cake decorator, but I remember getting so angry hearing a customer um, ranting at our decorator
mm-hmm,
for not doing exactly what he wanted. And
yep,
I was like, I don't know if I could handle like this high, because I was mad for her and got protective.
yep.
But yeah, so it's definitely an emotional training session, I guess,
It
working
is.
in the food industry.
Oh, it totally is, 100%.
Yeah. I don't know if I have anything else written. Oh, I have one more question.
Oh, let's hear.
Um, and I know we're all of us who work here at C Squared are very different, but we have some similarities as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just was there any like one thing that you felt like we all kind of struggled with equally, or what was the most common thing that we struggled with? I know you think we're all like superstars, and I guess we are, but if you had to pick one thing that you thought we were struggling with on the whole, what would that be?
One quality on the whole that I think that everybody at C Squared is struggling with. I'm not really sure, because a lot of the time it seems to me like everybody can act like they have low self-confidence, but then when you put anybody to the test, everybody's able to do whatever they're asked to do.
Mm,
So I believe that. I think there's a lot of self-deprecation that goes on, but not necessarily. I think, don't hate me for saying this, I think all of us are kind of, what's the right word? Arrogant might not be the right word, but maybe a little bit arrogant. I don't know, but there's a strong self belief. I think, even though there's a lot of self deprecation of I'm not that great at what I do type of thing. I know all of us kind of say that, but at the same time, I don't really believe any of us really believes that. If you know what I mean.
I do think, yeah, I know what you mean. I do think some of it is that I don't remember. who said it, but there is the saying that the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so I think all of us are kind of at that point where we know there's so much out there to learn, and we
Yep.
feel like, oh, we don't really know that much compared to how much knowledge there is to have.
Yep.
But we can manage pretty
Well,
well with what we
yeah.
know.
And the thing is that, um, again, everybody's persistent too. I think that's a key quality, is persistence and willing to keep going and working long hours and doing various different things. One key thing, again, like I've said before, is like for anybody who wants to make it in the industry, they have to work insanely long hours, especially at first. I literally generally do between 7 to 11 o'clock. I'll take a couple hours, but I generally do between 7 and 11. I know you work a full-time job and can't do that, but you're doing a lot of hours in between though at the same time. And I know you do stuff when you're at the day job. Well, hopefully nobody hears this, but I do know that you do that. Yeah.
It's all
So,
in my lunch break or coffee breaks, you know.
but you're still working when you're not working, is what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and pretty much everybody's the same way. Holly does the same thing. Gaia does the same thing. Corey does the same thing. So it's like, I think that's a quality that anybody has to have when they're trying to do the industry, because it takes a lot more than they think it's going to take.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you're doing it full time, like I am, like I can't, I don't have a paycheck to go to. So if we client, I'm not getting paid, so I have to, figure it out and do everything I can in order to make whatever I have to make. Right. So, but right. I mean, to come back to it again, I don't think anybody really has that quality of like, I'm not good enough. They might say it, but I don't think they really have it, if you get what I mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's something to be said for humility.
Yeah, humility is the word.
Humility is important, but you don't need to insist that you're bad at things that you know you're good at.
Yeah. But I mean, even if you told me that, for example, like let's say you told me you didn't know how to do something, and that if you told me this, let's say that you told me you didn't have confidence to do something, I do know if I told you how to do it, you would do it.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the knowing how is like, sometimes you can Google a lot of things, but sometimes it's like you don't get the answers that you need.
Yeah.
So.
But anyways, like, just to give you an example, like with you're doing 3 campaigns, I think right now. 4, 3, 4. I can't remember the exact number.
4. 4. I'm helping with 4. Yeah.
4. Okay, so you're working 4 campaigns right now, and you had no fucking clue the very first campaign you did a couple months ago, but you just went and did it anyways, and you just kind of figured it out as you went. So I think right there that shows that even if you ever told me that you had self-doubt, that's not really true.
Yeah, I think that I definitely struggle with lack of confidence sometimes, but deep down, I know that I can accomplish anything pretty much that I set my mind to, because that's what my past has shown me.
Yeah.
So
I can see through you, Aliyah. I know your capabilities, so can't fool me. No, but that's for real though.
But I do need help, and I need to be told how to do things sometimes.
And that's not a problem. But I do also that your capabilities are fucking huge. So that's why we keep trying to get you to do things, see how you do with them. Because I know you, each and every single time you've ever been asked to do anything, you've always come through with it.
Thank you. I try not to make promises that I can't keep.
Well, I'll make them for you. So I know how to do with things. So I just whatever. But to toot Aliyah's horn, just for anybody who's listening, she does extremely well with absolutely anything that she's been asked to do so far.
Thank you, Curtis. I appreciate that.
Yep.
I believe I have a question about competitiveness.
Okay, let's hear it.
Do you feel like you have a competitive nature?
Ooh, let me ask you, what do you think? I want to ask Aliyah.
Oh, I think you do. I think you do. but
Mhm.
I don't know if it's all like jocular or if you mean it. It seems like you do.
Depends upon the person, depends on who it is. Like, because like, for example, I don't really care about competing with most other PRs because most of them don't do what we do.
Mhm.
I don't think we're in competition with Ear Splitter Clawhammer, for example. Reason being is because they do something different than we do. I don't feel like we're in competition with John Asher or anything, but anybody like that. We had John on the podcast. I've had John Freeman on my old podcast as well. I think we
Mhm.
had PR, but I can't remember who it was. I think we had someone from Season of Mist actually. But that one time I did think of them as competition, but I actually don't anymore. Because at the same time, there's so many bands out there and so many people that you're able to have as clients. I don't really think the competitiveness is necessarily a thing anymore. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
at the same time, if you're talking about in terms of results, for sure.
Yeah. Of
Yeah,
course, you want to be the best at what you do.
of course. Yeah, 100%. But so I always want to give the impression that we are doing the best job out of anybody that's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hope we are doing the best job out of anybody that's there. So one thing that I always try to make sure of is with all of our clients, or at least as many as I can, like if they'll give us a testimonial, that to me is gold and shows that we're doing our job.
For
Right.
sure.
We had two, I think we had 3 in the last 48 hours, just unsolicited.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, that like if someone gives you an unsolicited testimonial, to me, that's golden. If someone gives you a testimonial after you ask them, that's pretty cool. But sometimes people will give it to you just because you asked and for no other reason, right? So yeah, so to answer your question about the competitiveness, to a degree, yes. To a degree, no. It depends.
Yeah. I was I know when I was listening to you talk about when you met Holly, you
Mm-hmm.
said that your first inclination was negative when you noticed that she ran a PR was a negative
It was.
reaction.
It was because I get suspicious of stuff like that, and that's probably a bad habit of mine. But if someone who is quote unquote a competitor and I don't know them, I get suspicious of them right off the bat. I don't know
Right.
why, but I do.
Well, why do
Uh,
you think that is?
I have no idea. It's just the way that I look at it because, like, to me, I'm kind of weird because I'm one of those type of people that I'll do something like that, like Holly did with me. I would
Mhm.
totally do someone with no intention of doing anything weird with them or anything like that. But for some reason, if someone reverses the flow on me and they do that to me, for some reason I get suspicious of it. And I don't know why it is. Because you'll notice, like with me, I'll go and give people stuff randomly for free. Like I'll give them a free campaign sometimes, do a
Yeah.
press, or else I'll get them to help us or something like that. But if someone does that to me, I think there's something weird going on. I don't know what it is.
Hmm.
Corey's the same way too, because like with her, I know she, like if someone does the same thing with her, like someone gives her something randomly, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? But then
Okay.
she'll turn around and go buy someone a gift.
Right. And I go, okay, what do you want from me? Like,
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. But then reversely, I'll go and do something for someone else just randomly, just because I feel like it. Like the other day, we did. I offered Tom DeWitt. He didn't know I was doing this. He asked me if I wanted to listen to his new album. I said sure, and then I made him a Holics and I made him a MailChimp and said, by the way, we're doing your PR for you. He wasn't expecting it. So
yeah.
I mean, but he was cool with it. He didn't think I was doing anything to him because I've worked with him in the past.
Right.
But he told me like, that they weren't doing PR this time. He just said, do you want to listen to it? And I said, yeah, totally cool. And just did it. But I'll do stuff like that for people sometimes. But if they do that for me, I'll sometimes go like, I don't get it.
So when I just sent you redesigned PDFs, did you have a suspicious reaction to that as well?
No reason I didn't actually with you.
Hmm.
I
Well,
actually
maybe
did
because we chatted on Twitter first.
could be. I don't know what it was, but for some reason I didn't suspect you of anything. I don't know why it was. I just thought it was a neat gesture and I really appreciated it and made me want to do something for you in return.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
I did just do it to be nice because I was like, these look like Word documents. They could look a lot nicer.
And they was really appreciated. And I mean, just as a result of that, that was actually part of the reason why we wanted to have you working with us too, is because you were doing stuff like that. But
right.
Ollie did it. I didn't know anything about her. We'd never talked before, anything like that. I just get this random shout out, didn't know who she was. So I looked her up, and then I was about to ignore her, and then I went, let's invite her on the podcast, and we went from there.
Yay. Cooler heads prevailed.
Well, yeah, I mean, for the first little bit, I was like, did I make a dumb mistake? Should I have done that? But then when we talked to her, me and Corey messaged each other during the podcast, and we just said, hey, let's get this girl on board with us. And then that was just went from there.
Yeah. And I'm glad that we're all on the team together, because I feel like we really balance each other out really well, and we get along really well so far. And it's been a really good environment.
Keyword is so far.
Yeah.
Wait until you guys see how nutty the two of us really are, and then you guys will be like, what are they getting involved in?
I don't know if you can surprise me at this point.
Oh, I'm sure we could. I'll find something to surprise you with. You're the dick. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I mean, that's who you are.
Yeah, I'm total dick. I'll find something that me and Corey are going to surprise you with. It's going to be like totally. You're just going to get your mind blown, and you're just going to be like, "What am I doing working here?" We'll give you a severed head.
I wasn't intending that as a challenge. Just for the record.
It is a challenge.
I do not. I think I've gotten through all my questions for you for now. As you know, I always come up with questions and I message you when I have them. But I think those are all I have for right now. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, I want to know why you didn't get anything controversial here or anything like that. That's what I want to know. I was waiting for the deep questions here.
Well, that's just not the type of conversations that we usually have on the podcast, and I don't know.
I was challenging you.
Would care to listen to it.
Probably not. Let me ask you this. So, what do you think is the thing that you personally need to learn to make yourself more effective at C-squared?
Turn
this around on you. I said I'll turn this around on you for a minute.
That's it's a good question. I do think there's still a lot for me to learn, even though I know that I will do my best to learn everything. Partly knowing how and when to follow up with people. Like how much to pester people before I get annoying. Finding that balance, and just getting to know all the individual people that we work with a little better.
Like the people,
other than like the journalists that we work with and stuff.
Cool.
And other than that, I feel like I do a pretty good job of finding the right publications for the right artists.
You do.
And reaching out to the right people. So yeah, I think it's just the time of getting.
Give me that again, Aliyah. You cut out briefly there.
Sorry, I had a call coming.
Oh, what were you saying? It was getting something. You got cut off there.
Getting to know the journalist and learning that balance between pestering and being pushy and being reminding people often enough.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough one. If you want me to answer that question for everybody, I can answer that right now.
Oh, well, give us the golden grain of truth.
Here's the thing is that everybody's different, and some people are going to get bothered no matter what. To me, what I usually do is like, if I send an email and the person doesn't respond, usually I'll do a follow-up email, or if I have them on Facebook, I'll do a nudge there, or if I have them on a Twitter, I'll check with them there, or Instagram. And usually the way I do it is I'll usually say, hey, just wanted to make sure you got my email I sent a few days ago.
Yeah.
That's about the main thing right there. I mean, it's a judgment thing. Like with you, I would probably follow up with you a lot more than someone else, just because I know you, and obviously we work together. But another journalist might be a bit different. It depends on who it is. You kind of got to get a read on people after a bit, is what it is. And I know that's probably a total golden answer, but it's kind of like you got to just kind of get used to the different people and how they respond. Like Greg Kendall is going to require different follow-up than Keith from Ghost Cult is. Well, at least with one of us, right? Because both of them have a high volume of messages, but they both like to be communicated in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's a judgment call, and you got to get used to it, is basically what it is with each individual. And it takes time.
Yeah. So those two things that I mentioned are interconnected.
Yep.
Getting to know the individuals and knowing how to follow up with them and when to follow up with them.
100%. It all boils down to like the magic ingredient with everything, and is always going to boil down to your ability to communicate with people, and your to hit the person, to get in front of the person without being annoying. And that, again, it comes back to the ability to communicate with the people, because there's the tone of your message, the shortness of your message, the length of your message, the frequency of your message, all different for different people. So like, I know we're probably running out of time. I just realized what time it was, but just to quick just say this right here. Like, for example, like if you were to contact a journalist 5 times in a row, that might be annoying to them, but reversely, another person contacting them 5 times in a row may not annoy them, and it might be the thing that you need to get through to them.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I'm being vague. I know that.
No, you're not. You're not. You're being very clear. And it's something you've said on the podcast many times before.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just that there is no straight answer. There's no one size fits all answer. And there's no quick and easy way to do it. But you just have to get to know people.
That's right.
And learn how to communicate with them. Yep.
100% it. So do you have more questions for me, or should I end off?
Yeah, I have another question.
Let's hear it.
I forgot about it.
Okay,
so I know you started with Striper.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the other band you mentioned on Holly's podcast.
I think I was mistaken. I don't think they were the second, but I did say the lead.
Mm-hmm. And I was just wondering, because that's many, many years ago, and there are a lot of genres that have kind of grown out of 80s metal. And I wonder what your favorite genres or subgenres that have cropped up in the last decade or so.
I don't know about genres that have cropped up in the last decade or so, but you know what, there's one genre that I've always hated that I haven't minded lately, which is deathcore. I hate it with a passion. But Corey recently showed me a band called Lorna Shore, which I really, 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 really liked.
I saw you post about that. I'm like, oh, you're really late to this train.
Yeah, I never didn't bother because they were deathcore.
But so that makes sense.
Yeah, so I never bothered. So because I always never liked anything deathcore related. So I still don't like a lot of it, but them in particular I really liked, and that's the main one that I would say is kind of like a newer one for me, because I never really bothered with it before. I was never really metalcore or deathcore or new metal or anything like that. But after hearing Lorna Shore, I kind of went, okay, there's probably a little bit more to this genre than I was really thinking.
Yeah, and like sometimes you just find that band that kind of gets in through the cracks and opens your mind to an entire different world.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like, it's not a genre I really expected to ever really check out, but and I mean, there's a little bit of metalcore I haven't minded too much as well. So yeah, I mean, I'll say metalcore and deathcore more are the ones that I've more grown into than anything else, even though I wasn't really into them before.
It's so funny because I know myself and like other people my age, a lot of times that was the first stuff that we listened to. I used to go to this Christian coffee shop that had metalcore shows, like Christian, because a lot of the Christian metal bands were hardcore metalcore
Yep.
and deathcore.
Yep.
And so that's what I ended up going to this coffee shop and getting in the mosh pit when I was 14, 15, whatever. That's what I heard. That's what kind of my gateway. So
Yeah, I never had that, because when I was younger, like first band I heard, like you said, was Striper. That was in 1980. I was like 7 years old, so that would have been 1985 or something like that, 1986. So, and then after that, metalcore I don't think came around until like 2002, 1999 or something like that. So
right. Yep. So just a generational thing, but
total generational thing. But you know what? There is, I'll probably get crucified for saying this. There is one metalcore album that I really do like, which is the one by As I Lay Dying.
Mm.
And then my mind is fucking blanking, but it doesn't sound like a metalcore album to me. You probably would know it, but As I Lay Dying.
I don't know their album titles, but I enjoy some of their music, unfortunately.
Frail Words Collapse. That's the name of the one. I didn't like
Oh, okay.
anything. That was the one album that I actually liked.
All right. Sweet.
And if anybody wants to get mad at me for that, go ahead. But I like that album.
Right. Yeah, there's plenty of music that people can get mad at you for liking, but
Just
yeah.
aside on that, just to be controversial,
Uh-oh.
people will give me shit for liking that album. But at the same time, I do want to point out, at the same time, another band that I really like has a murderer in it called Motley Crue. So
Right.
and no gives them shit.
You've mentioned that before.
Anyways,
Yep.
so anyways, I do like Motley Crue and I do like As I Lay Dying.
Right. It's all good.
Yeah. So do you have more questions for me?
That's it. That's all I have.
Cool. So how are we going to end this off, Aliyah? You got to give a tagline at the end.
A tagline?
Yeah, you got to say something. Got to be good.
Oh gosh.
There we go.
Believe
Oh,
in yourself and make your own world.
I like "Oh gosh" better. So believe in yourself and make your own world.
Yeah.